we're coming down, kind of wind up the week, or wind down the week. Chris and I have been chatting about some setups and a couple little short-term things we're looking at. We'll review a few things from the UK notes. We'll just see if we can find a little something to close up the week for us. But otherwise, it's been a pretty good week. We found plenty of great trades. There's been some really excellent setups, and markets are kind of just continuing on. And another good week, so no complaints. As far as news goes today, nothing too exciting. We saw some Canadian news and some U.S. news, which is coming up here. I think this is our University of Michigan, right? Consumer Report. Chris is going to walk down the street, see what they got going on over there, get the inside scoop. So otherwise, pretty minimal news. We'll just kind of watch the week wind down. We'll see if we can grab a pip or two somewhere and come back at it next week. But again, it's been a really good week. I think everyone's done some pretty nice trades, made some pretty good pips, and so on. Did everybody make some good trades though? By the way, feel free to share. If you want to share some numbers, great. If you want to just say it's been a good week, it's been a bad week, it's been a middle of the road week, any of that stuff works. Let's hear it. But I think all of our trades have worked out fairly decently well. We had a couple of live sessions between Aussie news and U.S. interest rate news and just our regular morning sessions. We've seen some decent activity. So Marcia still wants to get in the Euro Aussie if still valid. I am certainly going to talk about that. Did I write that down in my double check notes? No, but I have been looking at it. So we'll bring up the Euro Aussie. I have to write these notes because at my age I'm starting to forget literally everything. By the way, I carry around this little black notebook, which is amazing. Kind of something that that if you were to go to like an old diner in the middle of nowhere and you felt like you stepped into 1950 and they take your order on a little black notebook, that's what I have. I have to carry it around with me. I stopped using my phone for keeping notes because I forgot to look at my phone in my notes section. But this little book, I have to ask myself, why am I carrying this? Oh, I've got some stuff written down in it, so it makes me look at it. So notes are my best friend. They're keeping me on track. Nice to see you, Flo. We got Florence here with us. Nice to have you. Welcome. Okay, so let's have a little quick peek at this. Here were the UK notes. I sent these out last night, and I just wanted to make this clear. This was my disclaimer. Find one of the pound pairs that's moving and trade that one. Again, if there's good U.S. movement, if you see the dollar index moving, any other U.S. pairs moving, trade the pound dollar. Same thing with the yen. Same thing with the pound Swiss. But trade one, not all, for lack of wanting to have too much pound exposure. So I had a pound dollar, pound Swiss, and a pound yen trade that I thought I liked all of them, but definitely no interest in taking all of them. So I ended up kind of placing an order on the pound Swiss last night, and that was it. I didn't do anything on the other two as I recommended, just trading one of them. So this is kind of how we saw things play out. We'll just review really quick here. Here's pound yen. Pound yen is always such a wild animal, so we got to be careful of it. But nonetheless, there were pips. There were pips. And as I mentioned on these pairs, I want to see things like, oh yeah, I did have pound yen. Stay in the trade only if it can stay above the breakout area. So that's the only thing we want. If it can stay above that breakout area, let's stay in that puppy. And so, that worked out okay. Here was our breakout area. This is our bull flag. And it actually ended up running from the bull flag movement to that high, 29 pips. That's enough to lock in. If you were a set and forget, hopefully there was some sort of trailing stop feature to help keep you protected. But definitely some chop there. That one didn't move super well, but it still gave up about 30 pips. Depending on entries and so on, you would have hopefully seen at least 20 pips profit. That is plenty to lock in and keep yourself protected on a position like this. So although it didn't move fantastically well, there were enough pips to lock in. and it just came down to tap that daily pivot. Go figure, go figure. Anyway, a couple of pips to lock in there. I didn't trade that one. I liked the setup. It was a pretty darn clean setup yesterday, last night as we looked at it. I mean, that's a textbook bull flag if I've ever seen one. And again, it only gave us about 25 to 30 pips of movement to the upside before a big reversal. Fine, no problem. Still something workable. So if anybody got into that, that's something to have a look at. Morning, Andrew, and I'm telling you, Paul, the notebook, not the movie, because you know we'll all just sit and cry about that, but the actual notebook, that is great. Okay, so pound yen good for a couple of pips, but a bit of a tricky one. Pound Swiss. So this is the one I ended up putting a little trade on, pound Swiss, and this thing just, you know, I was kind of watching this interesting level. So there's the bull flag right there, nice consolidation downward. You know, 45 pips to get up into this resistance level that I've been talking about and watching, which is about 123.50.60. So, you know, a little 50 pip run right there, 40 to 50 pip run. I thought, I'm going to put a little trade on. I'm still scared of pound pairs, especially when I'm not watching them, so trade size is always a big factor. So I put a little trade on just to see, well, let's see, I guess I can go over here, just to see how this thing would play out. And pound Swiss did kind of the same thing. It made a little bit of a move, didn't quite get up those 45 pips, but still, you know, from the breakout area, same type of situation. We saw about 26 pips. Man, these pound pairs are just struggling. They're struggling. So ran up about 26 pips, and it's just kind of right back down to this area. So again, enough room to lock in. We hit that daily pivot, which was awesome. So if you got an entry from the daily pivot, then you saw some really good movement. And that's kind of what I've been mentioning, you know, looking to hit these daily pivot points and then make the move, buying off these daily pivots. But if nothing else, if you got into the break of the trend line, you know, 25 pips or so. If you got into the pivot point, about 55 pips. But again, no follow through. There was just no follow through. We couldn't make it up into the resistance level that I've been watching and loving. And, you know, it's just kind of playing around. So, you know, my next trade on pound Swiss is going to be above 126. Or excuse me, 123.60. So I'm going to be getting in above here. I'm not buying any more dips on this thing or any of that. I'm just going to throw a trade on above there because I think there's plenty of room for this to, you know, really work its way higher once it gets above this key resistance, kind of key failure area that has stopped the market from going higher so many times. We've had trouble at the moving average. You can see the 200 moving average here has, you know, bounced and put it down again, bounced off that again, bounce, and it's just getting junky and kind of messy and consolidated around here. So I want to make sure that we can clear that moving average and that we can also just kind of get above these highs and start working towards that weekly pivot and so on. You can see here, you know, from that 123.60 area to the weekly pivot, there's about 75 pips, and that's kind of what I'm going to initially be going for. Anyway, it's a nice little pattern. Hopefully some bottoming out happening in this area here. This is only an hourly chart, but hopefully that's going to be kind of putting in those lows for now. We're breaking trend lines. Things are getting messy, and we've got a nice little resistance level. So 123.60 is on my radar. So little trade on that one. It was good for a couple of bucks, but I want to really reserve the bigger trade for this above 123.60 area. So that is it. Did I send out an email for the UK notes last night? Yeah, I did. Did it not come through? I definitely sent out, I mean, I did my normal. That would be interesting because I feel like one other person said they they were wondering what happened to the UK notes. Did I not send them out? I mean, I posted them and I hit the send button. Maybe they, yeah, and that's true. They were posted in Telegram, but okay, you didn't get me a part. Okay, All right. So I mean, I always post them in the regular spot, but I guess there must have been some website problem that didn't send them out because I posted all the actual charts themselves. So I went through the situation of uploading the charts to the website email, but I guess it might not have worked. So, but they were in Telegram as well. So the members area of Telegram. They were there. So make sure you guys are in that. The members area of Telegram will be, the other spot to check that. So that's why I always post them in both places. Gotcha. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I definitely put it in there and hit the send button, but it must not have worked. But they're always in Telegram, so just remember that. Always in Telegram. But sorry, the website didn't work last night. I definitely hit the send button, but it must have had some sort of issue. But hopefully you guys got a chance to see those in Telegram. If you didn't, though, this wasn't the most exciting night for the UK notes. We've definitely had much better nights. Last night, for example, or the night before was cash money on all the setups. But kind of a lot of chop last night. So nothing too crazy there. Okay, so pound Swiss, we know we're looking for 123.60. Pound yen, not really looking for anything there. It made a quick little move and a bigger reversal. And pound dollar also, did what the rest of the pound pairs did, which was not really play out that well. I wanted to see this hit the daily pivot, hit the 23%, or excuse me, the 38% fib in this case, and then run up. With some tight stops below that 50% fib and that little area right there. So buying off that support, making a nice little run. And again, pound dollar, kind of did what all the other pound pairs did, which was it hit the pivot, it hit the 38% fib perfectly, and from there ran up 77 pips. Now, if you waited and got an entry, say you got in at the breakout right there, ran up 38 pips, and it never got anywhere that near that stop zone. It dipped down about 35 pips to hit that zone. So if you got in at the breakout, hopefully you were able to get a chance to buy in again at that daily pivot and 38% fib. Either way, the pound dollar moved the most pip-wise from the breakout, about 40 pips. From the area that I like the most, which is the daily pivot and 38% fib, about 72 pips. And as you remember here in the notes I posted, I wanted to see just kind of a 35 to 50 pip run on this, even though we had 100 pips of possible movement for that symmetry, for something like this. I was anticipating symmetry being from this daily pivot point right there, which we did hit that daily pivot point, and that would take us up into 124.50, 60 area. So anticipating that, it hit it perfectly. Anyways, there was some easy money to make on that one, and I should have put a trade on that instead of the pound Swiss, but I didn't. What are you going to do? Anyway, hopefully, I know we had that email malfunction, which I'm super bummed about, but hopefully you guys are able to make a pip or two off of some of these. They were pretty easy trades. They worked out okay, and kind of went from there. So, okay, perfect. Okay, guys, in just one moment, and I'm going to do this again, and I like to do this every week or two or three. I will post the link here in the chat of Telegram. So the member chat, or if Chris wants to do that, he's welcome to as well. But I can do that as soon as I flip the screen over. I'll post the link for the member section. You can just click on this right from the computer and it'll add you to the member only section of Telegram. Okay. All right. Okay, Mitch. Oh yeah. So you had Mitch. Did you have a pending order on this pivot point on the pound dollar, and it just missed you? Didn't get you in quite on that one, because that hit the pivot like it went about 2 or 3 pips past, 2 pips past maybe, but that was a really close one right there. But ended up working out decently well. So it was good for some bucks, good for some pips. I'll still be looking at this pound dollar, by the way, this morning. We're seeing, if we take a little peek at the dollar index, Where is that dollar index? You can see that it's still kind of having some bearish movement. We've seen, this breakout pole, breakout consolidation, and it's just kind of continuing to get below these lows. Remember, we identified this little low back here as a nice little double bottom that kind of stopped the market for a couple of hours, 12 hours or so, and then it's just kind of continued to trickle on through that 100.40 area. So it's just slowly making its way down, slowly but surely, and looking for a little bit of a pullback. We came back and hit the pivot just right now, and I looked at this last night and I thought, if the dollar index keeps heading lower, we've got 2 missed pivots, are we going to get a third? We took out that pivot. Excellent. So now we can probably continue to see some downward movement on dollar index. But anyway, pound pairs all worked out enough to make some money on them. Some worked out better than others. The pound dollar was much better. Pound Swiss, pound yen, a little more difficult, but there's pips on all of them. Okay, gotcha, Mitch. Okay, you had pending orders on both pound Swiss, pound dollar. Yeah, darn it. Those were both really great with those pivot points. We just had little taps of the pivots, and boom. And those have really been great. With these bull flags, buying off these pivots has really been excellent. And getting in at that pivot, there was 50 pips of movement on the pound Swiss, 70 plus pips of movement on the pound dollar, and then pound yen was kind of a different situation. But anyway, good stuff. Okay, so quick little look at a few to kind of keep an eye on. We're going into Friday. We're not going to take any of these trades probably in the next couple of hours, but just a few things that we want to keep an eye on going into the next week. Euro New Zealand has gotten pretty interesting. I was looking at this last night and I thought, what a nice little channel this is creating. What are we going to be able to do with this channel right here? So Euro New Zealand really, first off, this is turning out to be a pretty excellent little bull flag right here. Now, we've crossed the 23% fib, which kind of puts my high alerts on for a deeper retracement into that 38. But a move into that 38, and I'm all kinds of interested in buying dips down here and looking for some opportunities to get into that Euro New Zealand at a lower price, and even just trading it back up to the top of that channel would be super great. But I do like this Euro New Zealand, and I'm keeping a nice little eye on it. Now we have some good areas to make some measurements. Let's just say that hypothetically on this pair, it does run down to the 38% fib, which I think is a very likely area. Now, as far as the 38% fib is concerned, we have nothing super overlappingly interesting there. Now, we have some support levels a little bit closer. We have some candle body highs up here around 150-200, and that might be as low as it goes. But let's just say, for whatever reason, it does want to work its way down to that 38% fib, which would be awesome. That would still give us quite the move to be looking for here. We've seen this big run up, and if this just were to dip down to that guy, that still puts us up into 160. So 150, 100 to 160, that could be a nice little 900 pips that we wouldn't hate. But if it continues to chop around and just kind of hang out in this area, we'll look for something else, and we may have to get in at the break of the bull flag and just trade the break of the highs. If it continues to chop around and it really consolidates for long periods, like another week, another 10 days, something like that, then I would just trade the break of that high. But hopefully we can get some deeper fib retracement and get into this thing, another 100 pips or so lower than it currently is, if not a little bit more. So anyways, that's just something to keep an eye on. And we could see even deeper retracements on this, by the way. We have some nice fib levels here. Maybe this is ready to retest the trend line just a little bit. I don't know. But at least at the moment, I'm keeping an eye on that area. We've got a weekly pivot down there, and that's definitely, something I'm keeping an eye on as well. But that 38% fib looks like a nice little spot to possibly start buying into this thing and seeing if we can get some moves higher. But again, that's out. That's a couple of days out there probably, and we'll see how that plays out. Speaking of some euro pairs, let's go to Euro CAD real quick. I just kind of like the Euro CAD for some reason. Let me just say that if Euro CAD, this is an interesting level right here. You can see, you know, some highs, some support right here. This is about 142, you know, 40 area. I'm interested in EuroCAD. Anything below this, and I think we could see, you know, obviously a pretty decent sell-off below that 142, we'll say 40, and we might see this thing really start to kind of head lower. But as long as it holds this little zone right here, I want to buy into this EuroCAD. I want to see if I can get some long trades on this puppy. I was kind of looking at this little bull flag potential, and it's kind of heading lower, so I'm not so interested in that anymore. I'm kind of more interested to see if, you know, if this is going to be able to maybe hold, you know, consolidate, come down, you know, do some of that, and see if we can get some, you know, some opportunities to buy off those lows there. We've got some trend line kind of retesting that might go down. We've tested that a couple of times. We broke out. We tested here. So anyway, I'm kind of just curious about this. I don't have a pending order of any type yet. I kind of want to wait and see if I can get a little more clarification on this. But I like this EuroCAD. I think there's something to look for here that can be pretty nicely tradable. So let's watch. Let's wait. Let's see how this plays out. You can see the daily chart here. We've struggled around this 200 moving average, but you know, I think that we have a bit of a bottom in place. I think that's bottom enough, at least for the moment. Big aggressive double bottom. I think that looks good. So let's see if we can hold on to these lows and start looking for some opportunities to buy into some dips on this EuroCAD. Again, anything below about 142.40, and I would be looking to, you know, kind of just take that breakout further down. So that's EuroCAD. And then let's go to Euro Aussie real quick. Craig's just added to his Euro Aussie position. And Marsha, I think, was it Marsha? Yeah, Marsha, asking about Euro Aussie. So here are some things that I'm kind of watching for here. We had some notes, by the way, on this Euro Aussie for yesterday. Just kind of, you know, trades to watch and look for, and it ended up, you know, making a break of the high and making a decent little run, talking about having some stops down here. Euro Aussie is still looking pretty good. This is still kind of a pretty decent invalidation point for me. Anything below that, it's starting to look like, you know, a little 1 hour head and shoulders pattern that I would be kind of careful of at this point. So any movement below, what is that, about 138, 13900, 138.80, and we could see, you know, I'm not looking for a massive reversal, but you know, we've got some levels to look for. If that high is in place right now, let's what in the world is going on here? There we go. If that high is in place, my charts are absolutely possessed today, and I don't know what's going on here. Okay. All right. So if that high is in place right there, this little recent high right here, it takes us perfectly into the next support zone, which is about 137.30. And from here, we could maybe look for some better opportunities to buy into this thing. Anyway, it's a short-term pattern. This is a very short-term pattern. A 1 hour head and shoulders pattern is nothing to, you know, bet the farm on. But there's a couple of pips here. There's 150 pips from that, you know, we'll call it the neckline right now, to that next support zone, which is also perfectly some symmetry if this is the high in place. So on those buy trades, be a little bit careful because anything below that, I'm looking for a little bit more to that downside. But you know, we've seen the euro be strong and have some pretty good performance. So you know, in the Aussie dollar, I don't know if there's, you know, tons of Aussie strength coming, but all I do know is I trade what I see, and this is what I see on these charts right now. So we'll see how that plays out. Longer term time frames, of course, we're still inside of this falling wedge. So it could do a little bit of anything, on this falling wedge side of things, but hopefully that all holds, and if we get a little more bottoming out here, we can start buying into that again for some attempts to break out of that falling wedge. And plus, the other thing to just kind of watch for here, we have really tested the crap out of this trend line. This thing has held up, it's withstood the test of time. This is like a die-hard battery or whatever. This thing is just held up, and now we're breaking. Now we're getting on the right side of that trend line. So not getting me bearish yet, but below here, bearish, Baronia. So just watch that little area. Sorry to rehash to death this little zone, but that's what we're looking for. Yeah, that's right. I agree. The make or break level is that 138, 80, 90 area for sure. But it's a pretty clean head and shoulders pattern if we do get that break. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that little warning was out there. So careful on that one, Craig. And anybody that's looking to jump into this, if you're long, watch this because we've got a little bit of, and it is, it's conflicting for the fact that, other euro pairs are looking a bit more bullish, and the Aussie dollar is not really looking super strong on all fronts. I mean, I don't know. I guess it is looking. It's moving a little bit. Recently, it's moving a little bit against everything. So maybe that continues through that area. Okay. Any questions on that? Any questions? Yep. I'd say so, Craig. I'd say so. Below that neckline, I wouldn't want to. There's no need to give it another 150 pips to move against you. So just make sure you're watching that. But if that does confirm, I mean, that's a nice little trade that you could reverse your position, make up any losses, and probably, some nice little profits there. Okay, Euro Aussie looks pretty good on the downside, and probably a nice little area to buy into that puppy. Okay, so speaking of Aussie pairs, and I think I saw some or a few people get into this. These were UK, the Aussie dollar was UK notes from 2 days ago. Aussie dollar, US dollar, UK notes 2 days ago. And this one is just working out like a dream. I just wanted to kind of review this. Looking for that move into the daily pivot point. Missed it by a couple of pips, literally like 2. And then it's just been kind of moving up nicely. This is a very nice little bull flag right there. We had some nice opportunity for dips, trendline breaks, and it's up a couple of chunks of pips there. I don't know if anyone's in that or not still, but it's looking good. That one's looking really good. And if we continue to see some dollar weakness, some Aussie dollar strength, which we might, especially as we're looking at like that Euro Aussie, and that's setting up nicely for some more Aussie strength. The US dollar, took out that pivot, so we might be able to see some more dollar weakness. Then I really like this Aussie dollar for, for a nice little move there. If we play this thing super duper conservative and just measure the bull flag, just the bull flag, that's it. We don't go with the whole movement, which is, the actual kind of projected movement that we should be looking for. If we just go with that bull flag right there, that still takes us into some nice upper areas here, about 77.85 or so. That's pretty great. And here we are at about 7,700. So, there could still be a nice little chunk of pips left on this thing. If you're not in it, let's watch. Let's watch for more consolidation. Let's watch for opportunities to maybe buy off that daily pivot and get in on some of that pullback right there. We just missed the 38% fib as well, so I won't be surprised at all to see this thing, come down, tap down one more time before making that run higher. So I'm going to be looking at this one. I definitely will be interested in buying any dips on this. If it just gets choppy, doesn't give us any dips, then I think the Aussie dollar, excuse me, Mr. Fibonacci, I think the Aussie dollar could just kind of turn out to be a nice little, channel to watch here. And we can, there we go, come here now. we can just kind of watch those highs, and got a little chart alarm set on that, and I'll just keep an eye on that. Those highs are about 77.18, and depending on how much this thing bounces around, it could it could turn out to be a nice little area to break. I would still prefer to buy off that daily pivot because we've had so many good opportunities off daily pivots this week and really forever. So I like that, and I think we could see some good opportunity there. So let's kind of just keep our eye on about 76, 50, 60 area. If this dips down a little bit, let's look for some buy opportunities to take this up into some symmetry of this bull flag. So if you're already in it, lock in some, maybe able to add a little tiny bit more at the break of the highs and play that movement out, because again, there's still about 40 or 50 pips from the break of the highs into that symmetry zone. But otherwise, I like the Aussie dollar a lot. I'm kind of liking the Aussie dollar on, Aussie dollar, Euro Aussie. Chris was mentioning some Aussie New Zealand stuff today, and there's some good looking things there. So the Aussie dollar might be ready to make a decent move for it. So Aussie dollar is looking good. Got in at pivot on Aussie dollar. Good work, Paul. That is fantastic. Yeah, that was great. That's a perfect little move right there. And it's from the pivot or thereabouts, anyways. It's up a nice little 40 pips. So good work, good work. So very nicely done. Okay. We're still keeping an eye on pound pairs. We're going to kind of watch and see how those play out. Not really pound yen, kind of over that whole thing right there. Very much interested in pound Swiss above 123.60. Pound dollar, seems to be holding. Might be looking to buy some dips on that one. Euro New Zealand has some great longer term prospects there. We have a little make or break area on Euro CAD that looks good. We have a perfect little bull flag that we can buy the dips or buy the breaks on Aussie dollar, US dollar. And we have a very clean, very perfect 1 hour short-term head and shoulders pattern. I love short-term head and shoulders patterns. I think they're a lot easier to trade. We can grab 100 to 150 pips pretty quickly and be done with it. So anyways, that's my kind of preview of what I want to see happen. Really kind of the earliest part of next week. So, take some notes, guys. Mark your charts, set chart alarms, specifically set a chart alarm for the high, just like I have here. Set a chart alarm for the high on this Aussie dollar and set a chart alarm for that daily pivot. If that daily pivot goes off, you want to be looking at buying into this. If that high goes off, you want to be looking at, buying into that. Euro Aussie, the more I look at Euro Aussie, the more I like it. And so, again, set a chart alarm there. Be ready for that thing to make a break and head lower. It's a clean pattern, and I think it could play out very nicely. So, be ready for that. And any of these other ones, Euro CAD, that's got some stuff to look for down here as well. So chart alarm that stuff up and take some notes. Be ready for this. As far as what the numbers are, remember just the areas on the charts. This is the recent low of the last day or so. Set a chart alarm there. If that breaks, could be headed lower. Might be a decent sell trade. I don't know, but I'm just going to kind of watch that to have a look at it if it does touch that level again. But Aussie dollar, Euro Aussie are probably some favorites right this moment, and I'll be looking to trade those when I get a chance. So let's kind of go with it there. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Again, sorry those UK notes didn't get out. What a bummer. But always check Telegram. I'm going to post that link in just a moment for Telegram, and make sure that everybody gets that. Okay. Any last minute requests there? If not, Chris, jump on in. Show us what you're looking at. Show us what you're working with. How does the song go? I can't remember. Anyway, let's have a look at Chris's charts and see what he's up.
Unmuted.
That's what I'm looking for right now.
All right. Just have a couple alarms going off here. I am really looking at a couple of bigger trades for us. Now, peso, I've been talking about this one all week. I just want us to kind of get ready for this trade. I looked at this one yesterday and I was thinking, well, I mean, I could probably justify a little trade on it yesterday. I'll just show you what was happening here on the 1 hour chart, the 15-minute chart. I was watching to see, off of this little low, was it going to at least make an attempt to try to get back to these highs or find this little daily pivot? But again, I keep looking back at the bigger time frame. The better alignment is we are going to have 3 monthly pivots. So as we see with some of the times we take these daily pivots where we have one daily pivot missed, 2 daily pivots missed. By the time that second day is close to being done, we might be anticipating the third pivot. And sometimes we get that trade a little bit early to go after that third pivot when we anticipate like the low of the day, or if it was the other direction, it'd be the high of the day. So in this case, because we have those monthly pivots going down where it's been trending lower, monthly pivot missed, monthly pivot unhit, but price clearly nicely channeling lower. I'm watching this really carefully because the month is halfway done. So given next week or the week after, I'm curious if next week is going to be, possibly a bottoming out, and then the following week to end the month is actually going to be a move that will start making a bit of a retracement. So you can see all of the red lines I have on the screen. That is, those are a bunch of chart alarms, and they take us down into these lower levels. So what I'm watching for, if we're going to form just a massive crown or a massive head and shoulders, this is a huge level on this dollar peso. Election low, all of these support levels, and if we channel our way down and even, get close, I would be really, really interested in just looking at buying in this area and then expecting there to be, a big high, low to form, and we'll get a pattern off of that, and we can have, a 23% fib, 30 to 38% retracements. I mean, we can have a big move back into even a pocket of support resistance and some pivots. So this is a big trade. This is a really big trade. I hope that it does find a way to at least come close to these lows, so it gets us a really good entry and a really good price. Because of course, if it just kind of starts to stay sideways here, go out, earlier, and then start coming back down, it gets a little bit, sloppy, I suppose. But again, it's just stayed really nicely in this channel. I made a slight adjustment for that on Wednesday because I thought we had a rising wedge going into FOMC. That was not the case. So I think the channel is really where this thing is behaving nicely. Watching this current low from yesterday, we'll see if we can come down and make a fresh low. And I saw Andrew actually posted something on the peso. I think he actually might be long on it already. I'm just going to be a little bit more patient on the channel itself. I like all of these lows down here for kind of that big, that big point to be scored, all these lows to be taken out, and then looking for a pattern or a break of the channel, and certainly those pivot alignments. But hopefully this thing gives us, 3, 4, 5+ thousand pips, and we can have a combination of 3 pivots and also, just a high to low swing, and we can look at one of those retracement levels to have this thing pull back for us and give us a nice trade. So I like the peso a lot, and I really want to get a trade going on this thing, but I'm just not going to get into early. Okay, Andrew says, yep, small position for the starter. Definitely that third month through pivot's a big target. Yes, it is. Yeah, and that's great. And honestly, I'm trying to think. It's been a while since we've had that many pivots aligned, but what was interesting is when we started this year, we had 3 yearly pivots. So, I mean, we called this trade. I know that some of us traded the peso, some of us didn't. We were in kind of around these double tops. I know that we were trying to look for this thing in and around the election, but it just kind of got taken off the list because, I mean, we saw 20,000 pips in one day. That's nuts. And so, high volatility with everything with Trump. We had a double top and it started to break. It was just a clean trade. I mean, I ended up grabbing a few thousand pips on this move. I know that it dropped, 20,000 pips to the yearly pivot. So I feel like I had certainly left a ton on the table here. But whatever. It was a good setup. We had that big wedge and had some direction. But now it's just starting to set up, very cleanly once again for a buy trade with some of these pivots. So I like it. I'm going to watch it. And again, I hope that it does want to come in and challenge, some lows in the channel, start looking for some bottoming outs, and then start looking for a break higher. So something like so. We'll be watching over the next, week. I think next week will be something to keep close tabs on this thing, because if we push lower, I want these chart alarms to be triggered. Then we'll start, discussing where we're going to start entering, how we're going to play this trade. And I'll also be calculating that third pivot. So, I mean, if we have a pivot that sits around 19.4, 19.5, then obviously I want this thing to be below 19,000 and possibly even into this 18.6 level, so we can have a 5,000 pip move, a 10,000 pip move. So that's peso. That's a big trade. Pretty excited about that one. Also, the dollar yen. So dollar yen, one thing I've got to say about this week, very, very start and stop market, touch and go, lots of just quick movements and then nothing. And even though we had all this news and we were thinking that it could kind of break it loose, I mean, it did. FOMC certainly broke the market loose. We had that pound movement yesterday that was like, 50 to 100 pips across the board. I mean, the pound New Zealand went up 200 pips yesterday. It was stupid. It happened at 8 a.m. with that one dissenting vote for the Monetary Policy Committee, and then the pound didn't do anything after that. So anyway, dollar yen, we talked about this 50-50 spot. There was, there certainly was some direction, but how do we trade it? If we weren't trading FOMC, it was kind of difficult to trade this, because there really wasn't much of a pullback. You go from high to low. I don't even think we pulled back to a 30%. Look at this, high to low. I mean, yeah, it was even shy of the 23%. So, pretty slim follow through on dollar yen. Although the area was really good, it was, you just really had to say, okay, well, there's a spot I'd be looking to sell it, maybe sell it again off the pivot, but it just went for FOMC and then hasn't done anything since Wednesday outside of, okay, yes, we retested the low. I see that. But I wanted a little bit more volatility, see a high to low, get a pullback or get a pivot or get a flag or get a percentage that we, see the 23%, see the 30, 38%, nothing. So I don't know, Jared, I was a little disappointed. I honestly didn't take a lot of trades this week. I traded EuroCAD early in the week. Scalped the euro pound yesterday, took some profit chunks on Aussie New Zealand. Dollar CAD, I got a clean trade on the dollar CAD yesterday for a double bottom, and that was it. And this was one where actually I did miss a short on this. We have a high to low. We pulled back. Here's that 30%, just shy of the 38% was tapped right there, just shy of the daily pivot. But we're kind of close. I would think that if anybody was looking to get some of that short movement, that we're going to come back in and retest the lows. So, but I bought it yesterday on a double bottom down here. There was a double bottom which worked out nice. I was just going after these shallow retracements, and that worked out pretty well. But that was it. I mean, I think between Aussie, New Zealand, and other pairs, I may have taken 5 or 6 trades this week max. So I don't like a lot of the setups at the moment. I didn't see a lot of great, day-to-day setups. So I know that we had all this stuff kind of riding on FOMC. It certainly delivered. We had some, well, I take that back. I just thought, yeah, we traded pound Aussie and some dollar pairs. I kind of forgot about those and omitted those because they were small trades on news announcements. So I suppose I did throw in a few more trades, but outside of the news, I mean, I just didn't see a lot of great areas that I wanted to be trading. So anyway, it's just one of those weeks, I suppose. We knew we had a very heavy calendar. Today's Friday, so I'm certainly not looking to force any trades. But dollar peso, I like. It's on, absolutely on the watch list. Pound Swiss and Euro pound, definitely on the watch list. So I'm with Jared on those pairs. Now Euro pound, I would be willing to sell highs on Euro pound. In fact, I mean, I have a pending order sitting up here at this 87.85 high. I have a pending sell trade, and I have another pending sell trade here at this higher level around 88.50. So the reason why is I think this is a very clean 4-hour trend line break. If we come back and retest the high for a double top, or we come back and we kiss the backside of that trend line for this double top, really like that spot to be selling euro pound. Now the trade size would be small, but I'm not settling for some entries here. I'm looking to get sell it as high as possible on euro pound. Plus, if anything really goes awry and goes crazy on that pair, then I can kind of work my way through it with some small trades and scale into it if I need to. Okay. So all right. That's euro pound. Pound Swiss, I agree with. We got make or breaks on some of those euro pairs. Euro today was, high volatility. We had some good volatility on euro pairs, but they all just kind of, we had lots of movement yesterday. And did anybody actually see a headline or some type of, justification for what happened to the euro yesterday? So this, and I guess it doesn't look like much here, but the euro pairs yesterday popped another 30, 40, 50 pips. Late in the day. This was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time, and ended up, moving quite a bit higher. I know that EuroCAD did the same thing. Yeah, EuroCAD did the same thing here. There's a 15-minute chart, and 2:45 Eastern time, 2:15, 2:45 Eastern time. Big run. I mean, that's 100 pips. 100 pips yesterday, and then it gave it all back today. So, I mean, good volatility, not really great direction, because it was just kind of some movement. But there was a run on the EuroCAD and the backside of that trend line. I still am not, again, I think that these euro pairs are kind of in a fight zone right now. And keep in mind, and Jared and I have talked about this. We mentioned it yesterday. I know David was really helpful with letting us know that the Netherlands had their election. France, I believe that Le Pen sounds like he has a lead right now in France, and that's not a good thing. So as far as the staying in the Eurozone. So we could see a lot of extra euro volatility on this political stuff. All these upcoming elections, these potential headlines of, are these, new candidates going to be threatening the euro? And if so, that's going to be kind of wreaking havoc on price action. So I don't know, and that's part of the reason that I'm watching this euro dollar stuff so carefully. I know that we have DXY, we have a great looking formation. We're down below 100.40. I can see some follow through, right? But I don't know. I kind of hate. I mean, think about this. We had this great fake out at the beginning of the year on the euro, right? We had this 103.50 fake out, but look at how it went 500 pips to the north. So just to be prepared for it, let's say we do have a dollar inverse head and shoulders. Let's say we do have an inverse head and shoulders right here to the upside. Let's see the DXY does want to go down to the downside. Part of me, and this is just what I'm prepared for mentally, this is the type of, I'm putting quotes around trend. This is the type of trend that we might need to expect. Look at how deep every one of those pushes are pulled back. I mean, we had higher lows the whole time, but man, I mean, you can't get a breakaway on this thing. I mean, we've enjoyed a beautiful trend on Euro New Zealand. We've enjoyed a beautiful trend on Aussie New Zealand. To us, that's what trends are all about. I mean, we love knowing that we've got areas to work with and trades to go after. But if the euro dollar is going to make an inverse move or inverse head and shoulders and push higher, we hopefully it does it without being stubborn. But I mean, if it's going to be this is your trend, I mean, that honestly is going to be tough to trade, because if we don't get a good enough entry, a lot of these spots are going to pull back 50 to 60% of your profit. So I don't know, that I thought about that more and more today. Right now we're entering into a weekend with all these G20 meetings, and I'm sure that the euro and saving the euro, making sure the euro stays afloat, trying to talk these crazy candidates from leaving the euro. But nevertheless, I just think that there's going to be some volatility around the euro pairs with all these elections coming up. So the DXY right now, as it stands, the dollar is the third highest yield for the major currencies. If it's at 0.75 or 1%, the only thing that's beating it is the Aussie and the Kiwi right now. And I don't know. I don't know, Jared. Is it going to be? I mean, are we just going to get no-brainer follow through on DXY? or is it going to be a you know, kind of a crap show?
So
So
this is good trending time, I think. I
yeah,
think. I think we're entering into good trending time. We're creeping up into April, May. You know, one last big push before we start getting into summer. I don't know, but it is interesting. It's interesting to kind of see. I mean, one thing's for sure: follow through has not been rock solid.
right,
So,
right.
you know, these big follow throughs have, the New Zealand dollar obviously had a, you know, a big run, but we'll see if that follows through. There still should be more movement there, and you know, we'll see how that works out. But
Hmm.
yeah, the dollar, we'll see, man. We will see. It's I do find that it is kind of interesting. You know, I feel like everything is kind of leaning towards more dollar, um, you know, more dollar weakness, but it's interesting that we've seen, you know, some, you know, rate hike and you know, the economy's doing solid and all of this. It's, you know, I think the dollar could really so easily go either way at this point, you know, if we look at just the numbers side of it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and, you know, and again, I don't want to just belittle the point of like, you know, just protect, and but it's like I want to. I think that if there's going to be headlines day to day over the next, you know, month or so with, I mean, we've seen these random pockets of movement, and we have to look at the headlines and see like, oh, it's something about the ECB talking about raising rates. That'll never happen. Something about you know, the election. Something about, it's like all that's happening right now over the next couple of months. And the same thing we're seeing with pound and Brexit, and how sensitive the pounds are with any type of headlines. I mean, my gosh, yesterday was, you know, the biggest move the pound's seen in a while, but it still didn't sustain a move. I mean, you look at the pound pairs, pound Aussie got smacked right back down. Pound CAD still hasn't broken above 6,500. Pound Swiss, you know, we were looking for it to get above 2350, couldn't do it. Pound yen, still in the same box I drew earlier in the week. You know, so that's, I mean, that's 7 currency pairs that we want to be able to trade, and we're getting nothing. And then pound New Zealand, you know, had a 200 plus pip run yesterday, and then it gave, you know, a decent chunk back off of just some levels. So yeah, and Andrew says the longer the chop, the bigger the pop. I mean, I would certainly hope so, and that's, you know, that's why the pattern stuff is so exciting. I mean, I'd like to think that the euro dollar, you know, with as good of a pattern as this is, or this dollar index, I mean, that's what patterns are supposed to do. I mean, the pattern should not be, this is how a pattern gets fulfilled. I mean, that's not how patterns work. I mean, they should trend. I mean, I mean, if it's going to trend, like, go miss some pivots, trend, you know, and then we can worry about, okay, we've got our symmetry, we've got our projections, then we can start looking, you know, where divergence sets in, looking for, you know, the bottom-ish area. But I don't know. I mean, if we look at this, and I keep going to the bigger time frame here, but the DXY, I mean, the election low is really the critical low, and at this stage, I mean, I think where we're currently sitting at 100.40, you know, this was a start for confirmation, but I really think the big tell, and you know, I know that it's just requiring a bit more confirmation, but the big tell is, will the DXY get back below this neckline? I mean, that's really what I think. If we're going to have a big bearish movement on the dollar, it's probably going to have to be a head and shoulders where it's actually going to break the neckline. So, you know, again, does that mean we should be trading it now towards symmetry? Very possible. I mean, I'm still looking, you know, every day to follow along with, can the euro dollar give us a movement? I mean, the euro dollar does look very clean with this inverse, you know, this inverse head and shoulders, but you notice that if it's going to create a movement higher and challenge, you know, 110, or get out to, you know, the top of this area, I mean, symmetry is not that far away. It keeps it kind of within the context of this larger down move, but a head and shoulders kind of completely breaks this thing, where we come up and challenge, you know, this big election high. We have that big range where I know that, I mean, this was probably 2 years ago now, Jared, you talked about that 38% fib, that it was very close, but it never got touched from that big swing from high to low. So anyway, I mean, as always, we're kind of prepared for anything, but I would like to see some trend. I mean, it's only March. I mean, you'd like to think that we can get some, you know, get some trend on these dollar pairs, get a little bit of follow through, and make it quick, and then the dollar can recover, and we can have a carry trade on the dollar, you know. So anyway, so I don't know. I just, maybe I'm beating up the analysis too much. I just think with the sensitivity of the pound that we've seen with Brexit, I'm wondering if the euro is going to face kind of the same type of pockets where you have little headlines here and there that kind of disrupt price. But again, keep our eye on the bigger picture. If we're clearly in, neckline or above the neckline territory, that's why we trade. We have stop losses if needed. But if we can follow along some direction, have a pattern play out, I think we'll be just fine. And it's not like all of our trades for the next month is going to be all dollar related. I mean, there's plenty of other good setups that we can take. Pound Aussie, maybe. Pound pairs, maybe. But Euro Aussie, Euro New Zealand have had a lot of good movement. I would like to see additional movement. We have good commodity trades between New Zealand CAD. If Aussie CAD can give us a clean setup. So anyway, another chart that I wanted to talk about was Aussie New Zealand. I mentioned to Jared this morning, I can't really believe I'm saying it, but I think I'm actually going to consider a sell on the Aussie New Zealand. Now, I'm not going to do it yet because this is, I don't want to go against the grain of the bigger pattern, but you can see the chart alarm that I have set on this trend line. If this 110 level can hold, literally all I'm looking for is a break of this trend line and a run right back into these lows at 108.60. That's it. I don't, honestly, if it goes lower, that's totally fine. But I'm just looking for this little chunk in the short term, and I'm probably going to start buying dips below that because I still want to stay with the bigger pattern, which is 1300 and higher. But if we just have a little correction down to 108.60, that will create a little pocket here. So that would come back into this area. It may create a corrective move, but I'll happily buy it down there. If it creates a 5-wave, I'll happily buy it there. We'll see. But I'm thinking on this trend line break, if we hold 110, we should have a retracement, even if it's brief. But again, stop losses will probably be used because what I don't want to do is say, hey, let's sell the the Aussie New Zealand, and then we're like, this thing's going to 1300. So if I sell it, it's going to be very quick for targeting some previous lows, protecting profits, and I'll turn right back into a buyer and wait for some type of additional scaling in. I'm just going to buy every dip that I can and space it out probably 50 to 70 pips if it plays out that way. But I'm still looking to take Aussie New Zealand up to 1300 and beyond. But I'm just noticing we've got divergence everywhere. We've got it on 1-hour charts, 4-hour charts, 8-hour charts, daily charts. That's a lot. That's a lot of disagreement. So I would think we're going to have a little bit of a topping pattern. So we may have a double top in play here where it comes up to 110 or 110.16 and then drops and then gives us a run back down to 109 or 108.60. So something to keep in mind for next week. Will require a little bit more confirmation. Dollar peso, still watching dollar peso carefully. And honestly, with all the news being done this week, frankly, I'm hoping that we just have, some cleaner setups. I didn't like how this is how I would summarize the week. This is Monday. This is Tuesday. That's Wednesday. This is Thursday, and this is Friday. Is that just me, or is that about what the week felt like? You sprinkle in a couple. I mean, we had Euro trades. There was a good pocket of Euro trades here. There was a decent pocket of Euro trades yesterday if you were trading short term. But this is pretty much what the dollar felt like for the most part. And we traded some news, but I think I feel disappointed in myself because I didn't trade very large in anything. I mean, for my news trades, I was only in for a mini lot or even like multiple micros. But it's like I traded about $1 or less a pip on some of those news announcements. That doesn't pay any bills. It just kind of satisfied my need to trade. But the new stuff just keeps working out. And any other news trade, it was different. The pound Aussie was a good news trade for us. That was a decent trade size. But FOMC, I was really cautious around. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe I sound like I'm super pessimistic because I didn't trade for a lot of heavy trade sizes. But I protected a good chunk of profit on Aussie New Zealand. So be happy, right? Stop being a baby. But I just hope with all the news done and digested in the markets, we can just get some additional clean movements. Let's get a couple pivot lined up. Let's get some trend areas we can be watching for. And I think that's why the Euro pairs are so interesting. They're at these kind of crossroads where we could get 50 to 100 pips one way or the other. So just let's keep monitoring those levels, take those notes, and let's get ready to attack it next week. So that's really it for me, Jared. Watching the peso, that's again kind of a larger term time frame for us, but we'll be watching. I think we're back down towards those lows again, which is good. Hope that we can come back into channel supports and start looking for some opportunities to buy. We're only a couple weeks away from possibly getting an anticipated move to that third pivot. So it depends on how this whole thing looks. Aussie New Zealand, I'm looking for that next week for a very short-term sell trade targeting 108.60. But again, protecting it from there, and I'll get right back in and start scaling into buy trades. And then Euro pairs, I think we should really watch Euro pairs. I do like Euro Pound a lot, and I like Pound Swiss a lot. I'm like I said, willing to sell Euro Pound higher. I think Pound Swiss with a higher volatility, we'll just be looking for a clean break, and that's where all of these pound pairs are. And I've got to admit, if the pound pairs can break, even if it's for a day, I'm going to buy the pound pairs. Pound Swiss, I'd buy it above this level. Pound CAD, I'd buy it above this level. Pound Aussie, I'd even buy it above this level. We have a monthly pivot up here, 63.38 on the Pound Aussie. So if we get another pop on the pound yen, another one. If we get above 140.50, that's another big range. So if the pound can just break out of these silly little ranges, we can actually make some money on them. Okay, Andrew says, do you place pending orders on breakouts? No. I used to, but the level of wicks now is just, and especially on pound crosses, the amount of wicks that we have is just so much more common that if you don't see a 1 hour candle closing above or a 4 hour candle closing above, it's a fake out. I mean, we've had lots of ranges here and lots of fake outs. I mean, you can see if anybody tried to sell a pending breakout, sell a pending breakout, sell a pending breakout. All you see when the dust settled is a candle that's a wick. That's it. So that's not confirmation. So I need to see the body of the candle closing above or below that level. I know that Jared likes to look for the open of the next candle above or below those levels. Those are really good. Those are good ways to not get fooled into a fake out. And it's really helpful because obviously we hate because if you took a trade that was a fake out, you got the worst possible entry, and that's what sucks. So I think the confirmation is key when you're looking at those breakouts. So now how to trade that, just a little segment. I mean, if we do have confirmation, the trader in us wants to say, okay, I'll wait for a pullback and I'll get the entry on the pullback. That sometimes happens, that sometimes doesn't happen. So for me, I will often take a small trade on the breakout itself with confirmation and then reserve a second trade for the pullback. And that way, I have the participation down, so I'm at least in the trade, and then I have the second place, my second order, which would be I'm getting a better entry. So this might be a test the water trade on the breakout. This would be the retest and see if the trade's going to be valid. Plus, you could put a kind of normal trade size in, and then once you get to break even or higher, then you're managing profit the whole time. So just a clean way to trade those levels. But again, we're just watching those areas and needing some confirmation, but it makes it a little bit easier to trade it that way. Okay, Jared, that's all I got, sir. So pound pairs, a lot of ranges. Mexican peso, would love to get a good clean trade for several thousand pips on that pair. If 110 can hold on the Aussie New Zealand for a brief pullback, we may look for a sell trade. Otherwise, I'm also totally fine if you just want to stick with the larger pattern and just buy those dips. But I do think that we're going to have some type of, three-wave correction, something on this Aussie key. We'll create a little bit of a correction in some capacity. And that's why I think it's going to come into this 108.60, but it hasn't happened yet. But, again, good work on everybody holding this trade. I mean, the fact it ran to 110 was awesome. It didn't take that much longer. It took about an extra month, but, I made some good money. I made about $8 grand on this trade just above the pivot, and I would have kind of doubled that if I would have waited a month. So, yeah, I mean, take it or leave it. It would have been nice to keep the trade open, but it's fine. I still built it back up, made a few extra bucks, but I'm still gonna take. This is now phase 2.5 or whatever. We'll just keep looking to stay long in this, and we've still got big bullish targets higher. So stay the course. So, all right, Jared, that's all I have, man.
Excelente. Very good, very good. Okay, real quick, guys. Anybody that does not have the link to the member-only Telegram, make sure you pick or check the chat, excuse me, in the website right now if you get a chance. If you're not able to get access to that member-only Telegram area, it's right there. Have a look and join up, and we can all stay in contact. Otherwise, very excellent. Okay, yep, there it is right there. Member-only link. Yep. Okay, so I probably am not going to get into anything else for the rest of this week. I don't know about you, Chris, but I may not take any more trades.
Yeah, we've got. I've got March Madness to watch today. I'm going to catch up on some basketball.
You guys all have a wonderful weekend. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend, but I hope you guys all have a fantastic one. And we'll see you all back here on Monday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. So we'll see you here. Nice to see you, Aubrey, as always. Lila, good to see you. And all the visitors we have on today and anyone else, welcome. Thank you for being with us. And we'll catch you guys on Monday.
Sounds good, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Take care, guys. Thanks. See ya.